Well, hello, everybody, and welcome back to another Dork Discourse, episode 36. This is, I'm actually keeping track for once to feel a little bit more official, a little bit more legit. Do not fret. Tom is safe, Tom is alright, and he is actually on his way this time, and will not be joining us for the last 30 minutes after we've already been streaming for an hour and a half, like we did last week. So don't worry, he's actually going to be here very, very shortly. He will be joining us for the majority of tonight's episode, so that is good. So before y'all get worried that you're gonna be saddled with me again, just me flying solo, don't worry. Don't worry, he shall be joining us. But what's up, everybody? Happy Tuesday! This is so much fun. I'm glad we're doing this regularly. Tom! He'll be here. He'll be here. Don't worry, Zeta. Don't worry. What's up, everybody hanging out in the chat? Sean, Charlie, Alice, Birdchurch, Nick, Gunny, Dave. Let's go. It's a party. Jerry, Josh, the Stanleys, Visitor Zeta. Let's go. Daddy Josh, let's go. Oh my gosh, all the OGs. It is a party up in here. Well, happy Tuesday, everybody. Don't worry, I'm excited that Tom's gonna be here too. I gave him a little bit of a lecture, not gonna lie, after last week, because we both wanted to make this a very regular thing on the channel. We wanted to be accountable, dedicate a day of the week to this, and really keep it regular and keep up the continuity and be accountable for each other and for you guys and just for ourselves, because we typically had no schedule for this. So regardless, anyway, ranting, but you know, we were both equally like, yes, let's stick to this, let's be dedicated, let's be accountable. And second weekend of trying to keep a strict schedule, Tom was a bit late, but it is okay. He is excused. It's all right. And he did feel very bad, but he will be here. He will be here very shortly. Ruff, let's go. Connor, let's go. Let's go, birds, except for the past 2 weeks, for real, for real. The worst part of it is Tom is a mother freaking Cowboys fan. Y'all must not have been manifesting hard enough. This time last week when I was begging you all in the chat to send good vibes to the birds, those vibes got lost into oblivion, it seems. They fell off, they fell into the void, and they went directly into the state of Texas instead, unfortunately. That was really hard to watch. It's so hard. How am I supposed to roast Tom? How am I supposed to trash talk when the birds put up that god-awful performance? So bad. Literally, why can't we ever just be good at our sports? And I'm talking about like a comfortable level of good. Like, you know how Yankees fans can just ride the wave, I feel like, permanently? Like, no, they're always dependable, you know? Although, I don't know how they performed last season. I feel like I heard that they weren't as up to par as they usually are, but regardless, the Yankees have like a decades-long history, I feel like, of being like dependably good. Like, if you're a Yankees fan, you're coasting because they're constantly good. Versus, I feel like Philadelphia sports, none of our teams have that type of security. Just when we think we're doing stellar and we think that we've achieved ourselves as like a great, good team, we do that. We do something like what we did this weekend, and it was just brutal. What happened? What was it? It was last year when we lost within the span of like 6 months. The Super Bowl, the World Series, the MLS Cup. We got eliminated from like the basketball. What's the freaking? I barely know this many sports. You know, the Sixers got eliminated. It all happens at once. That's the life of a Philly sports fan. But thank you, Connor, for the moral support. Rolf, thank you so much for the wedding wishes. Appreciate it. Yes, we're still on that post-wedding high. I actually have carpal tunnel, self-induced from writing like 100 thank you notes today. I'm done. I was like, I need to get this done before the stream. Mike Hill, what's up? Yankees didn't even make the playoffs this year. All right, so I'm speaking out my butt. But you know what I mean? I feel like, but that was an anomaly for them, you know, right? That was my mom's talking smack in the chat. And don't worry, folks, I just heard the dog barking next door like last week, which means Tom is here. Tom is here, so he'll be joining us very shortly. But yes, it's the cost of being a Philly sports fan. However, I will always appreciate Bryce Harper, except I kind of low-key blame him for admitting that he has allegiances to Dallas, and that little pre-show video they had of him, you know, expressing his favor for both teams. I was like, Bryce, what are you doing? I think he jinxed us. You know, the current Rocky of our city, the current hero of Philadelphia, coming out and publicly admitting that he grew up as a Cowboys fan is not good juju. It's not good juju. So, anyway, all that aside, we got a great show tonight, folks. I actually kind of put tonight's topics together on a whim, but I swear they're related. I want to discuss the upcoming series Rebel Moon from Zack Snyder. It's not a series. I keep saying, I guess technically it's a film series, but I totally, for the longest time, was under the impression that it was like a limited series until I learned that it's actually 2 films, you know, split apart, part 1, part 2. So technically a film series, but rather 2 films. I want to talk about Zack Snyder's the first release coming out this Thursday on Netflix for Rebel Moon Part 1. And I also want to discuss, I swear it relates. Here he is. You made it.
Hello, everybody.
Do you want to grab the gaming chair? Yes. We have a secondary gaming chair that Tom uses, but I'm too weak to drag it in myself, so that's why I tasked him with it. But anyway, in regards to films, streaming, you know, Rebel Moon, I also want to talk about the kind of rumor mill that's been circulating that, again, I do not know. As you guys always know, I always say take all this with a grain of salt, a fat grain of salt, because my source is Twitter, and we all know it's not even Twitter anymore, so it's not even, Twitter's not even a source anymore, but we all know how loosey-goosey, you know, citations can be from that website of all places. So, but I want to discuss how they're related in regards to the rumors circulating that perhaps Mandalorian Season 4 is actually going to be released in the form of a film. Have you heard about this? I've seen that. Yeah, I've seen some other people talking about it.
I have indeed.
Here's the remote for you if you would like to turn on the TV. I plugged it in, so Tom's getting his second monitor going. Do you want to scooch in a little more? Do you have room? There we go.
Fancy.
The lack of symmetry was throwing me off. Feel free to adjust this too. I feel like it's very bright in your face. There we go. All right, the gang's all here.
Yes.
Ready to rock. But yes, I want to discuss tonight, obviously, the rumors. Again, not trying to speak any validity into them. I do not know how legitimate or credible they are. Although where did I read? I was reading an article. I obviously saw these first on Twitter. But I was reading an article from StarWarsNewsNet.com that quoted, who did they quote? I have it pulled up. According to Jeff Snyder of The Hot Mic, which I'm presuming is another podcast or news forum, he was quoted saying that the odds are in favor of Mando Season 4 appearing in the form of a film. And he cited the recent SAG-AFTRA and WGA strikes as being a potential reason that it could alter the development, maybe change the course of where the show is going to go. But I want to talk about how that can relate to Rebel Moon. And, oh shoot, I forgot. We have the monitor. So wait, I can just drag this up now. There we go. Perfect. All right. But I want to discuss, of course, the possibilities if that becomes a film, what that could mean. I think it could mean good things. That's why you guys, especially when it comes to the rumors that I actually want to see come to fruition, I try to tread carefully. But I think it can mean only good things. But also to discuss, you know, what if Rebel Moon proves to be successful as the alleged, you know, Zack Snyder's interpretation of Star Wars without the constraints of the current Star Wars universe, you know, it's his own vision, his own thing. But if Rebel Moon proves to be successful, what that could mean for possibly the future of Star Wars, and if we are in a bit of a streaming fatigue right now, seemingly across lots of, you know, not just Star Wars, but with Marvel, and, you know, I think they're starting to become one and the same in regards to, like, overconsumption. We have too much, we're verging almost on too much quantity. And one thing the fandom just desperately wants and needs is a film. So what could it mean if there was a pivot, a serious pivot from actually, like, series, and instead they we didn't, there was longer delays, not delays necessarily, but longer duration between release dates. And instead of getting, multiple series per year, what could happen if we got, and even if they release them kind of like what, every streaming platform now has film theatrical deals, or it goes to theaters for a few weeks and then goes right to streaming exclusively on Disney Plus or Netflix or something like that. Or even like Rebel Moon. I don't know if it's getting a theatrical release, but some movies now, even on streaming platforms, do get both theatrical release, or that's what happened with Five Nights at Freddy's. It went to theaters, but you could also just pay, I guess, $20 on Peacock or whatnot to watch it immediately. I don't know if it actually was free right away, or if you would it would make sense if you had to pay for it. Correct me if I'm wrong if you all watched it via Peacock when it first came out. But anyways, I want to just talk about how those can be related, what that could mean for the future of Star Wars. If, again, take it with a fat grain of salt. I never want to be rumor mill over here on this channel, but this is one that piqued my interest, particularly coinciding with the release of a huge, what is about to be, I think, a huge Netflix sci-fi new IP, Rebel Moon. So what do you think about the validity to these rumors? Again, we're going to call them rumors until we know they're fact. You guys know how I play it. I don't believe anything until I actually see it play out on screen or I hear it from the mouth of a Lucasfilm official. So until then, they are rumors. So what do you think about the possibility if Mando Season 4 was actually a film?
Well, I have two things to start this off. One, I heard you making excuses for your pathetic little fake football team.
We're tied, so if we're pathetic, then so are you. We're tied.
I heard the excuses, so that's what they are, excuses. Second, I forgot the second. It was related to... one question I have. Is Rebel Moon a movie or a series?
Yes, I was under the impression at first that it was a limited series. I kept thinking that's what it was, but it's 2 movies. I guess it's a very long movie split in 2 parts. So first part is coming out this week. I think the second part is not coming out until... I'm actually talking on my butt right now, February, or at least sometime in the first quarter of 2024.
Okay.
So it's 2 films, part 1, part 2. But obviously a large story split up into...
And is it theatrical release and Netflix release, or just
That's
Netflix?
what I'm curious. Is Rebel Moon getting... I have technology. Because I'm seeing people going to like premieres for it and stuff. So I wonder if Rebel Moon is getting a theatrical release. But if something comes out on Netflix... It's having a limited, just a 1-week theatrical run ahead of its debut on Netflix. Okay.
Oh, okay.
So we'll play in select theaters from December 15th to 21st, and it's coming out, I believe, this Thursday on Netflix. So I think.
Okay.
I think
so
it is.
This soon.
I think so. If I'm not
So it's already
mistaken.
in theaters, and it comes out to Netflix on Thursday?
It said the 15th through 21st.
Okay.
But maybe I'm...
Well,
maybe
it's
I'm
the
wrong.
12th.
When is Rebel Moon coming out? I could have sworn coming on Netflix. Oh, I'm an idiot.
On the 22nd. Okay.
Dang it, I've
we
been
just have to go
telling
look.
lies. I've been telling lies, everybody. All right, I'm going to backtrack. Oh, I kept thinking it was this week. It's next week. I'm an idiot.
Sounds like you've been telling lies for the last...
I am. Here I am saying that I don't play into rumors and lies, and I've been spitting them out. All right, well, it comes out next week. Dang. I just got nerfed. I just got so
If
nerfed.
it's in theaters on Thursday.
It actually could be something cool to go see in theatrical release, being a big budget, seemingly, based on the trailers. It very much looks like it transcends typical Netflix. And not this, I feel like Netflix is actually consistently very good with their quality and graphics and VFX and stuff like that. I don't think I've ever even had really qualms with Netflix productions, because I feel like they really came out the gate with The Witcher, which followed up Game of Thrones, and that was like really, I thought Witcher looked incredible. Granted, I feel like that's the only major sci-fi thing I've watched via Netflix as a Netflix original. I could be wrong, but it actually could be worth going to see in theaters. So we could go see it. You can go see it theatrically this week. Dan the Man, what's up? Good to
What's up,
see
Dan?
you. Good to see you. But if you are like us and you are appalled by the fact that movie tickets and a movie visit in general can cost upwards of like $45 these days for two people, then it will be free. I think on Netflix, I should vet these things before I start saying them, but typically things on Netflix are free, unless you, of course, subscribe to Netflix. You know what I mean. So you can go see it this week if you would like in select theaters. So yes, it's 2 movies. It is coming out in theaters.
Yeah, okay.
So how does that affect what your thought process was? How does that aid what you're gonna say?
Yeah. Point 3, Sean, you're right. All 3 of our teams are tied, and your team did beat both of our teams. So appreciate you, sir.
Sean's nerfing both of us.
But the 4th point is going back to confirmed Lucasfilm projects. Even when they confirm it, you can't really believe it until we actually see it.
Hashtag skeleton crew.
So there's been, as you know, a ton of confirmed projects in the gaming realm and in movie realm that have been canned after announcement before they actually get to our
confirmed and then never
screen.
see the light of day. That's actually so true.
So
No, that's
until we actually see the first episode on Disney Plus, or are sitting in the movie theater, or have your hands on the controller about to play the game, I think the track record proves that it still has to be taken, all of it with a grain of salt, even if it comes from official Lucasfilm channels.
Even as I'm actively watching, you know, you guys hear me say this all the time in my reactions. I'm like actively watching the episode and I still can't believe my eyes, and my brain is still refusing to believe that it's even real, even happening. And I always say sometimes in my reactions, like, I hope I don't go to sleep tonight and wake up and this is gone from Disney Plus, because it wasn't real. Like, even after it happens and things come to fruition, my brain still can't conceive that, my brain still cannot believe the fact that it actually came true. So you raise a good point. You good over there? You raise a good point.
The lamp.
Yes, I saw that.
Yeah.
You raise a good point. So that's true. So yeah, that's why rumors these days and stuff. Maybe this is generated from the fact that we're so starved of a theatrical release for anything Star Wars, except for, and we can talk about this because this is actually something I want to talk about, more like vent about. You know, except for the recent episode of Ahsoka, was it episode 5? Where it released in only like 10 theaters, by the way. It released in like 10 theaters. It's
better than the Kenobi finale that was in 1 theater in Canada.
Oh yeah, wait, I forgot about that.
Yeah,
how did the Canadians get that?
In Hayden and Deborah's joint home city.
True, that's true.
Both of them went to 1 theater and showed the finale.
Like, there needs to be more of that. I don't understand what's the logic of, I mean, granted, I guess, yes, if you see, I mean, it's proven the pudding. Anecdotally, we saw that. I immediately called you. Tom was at work. I was like, holy shiz, they're releasing this episode for one night, the night before.
Talk about
episode 5. Ahsoka
Yep.
episode 5. They're releasing this in theaters. Let's try to go. We're lucky that we live in Los Angeles, like one of the more populated urban, you know, areas on the United States map. I forget what the other lucky 10 cities were. I think like Washington was one of them, or Seattle rather. But, you know, if you happen to, that's the other thing. It's like, oh, we're lucky enough that we even lived in a city that it was worth looking.
We still didn't get tickets.
We still didn't get tickets. Exactly. Versus, like, you know, for folks who live in, I don't know, what's a not very populated rural city or state rather. I don't know.
To start from the West Coast and work eastward?
No,
Wyoming, Nevada,
okay.
North Dakota, South Dakota, Minnesota, Montana.
If you live in Wyoming, would you even
Nebraska,
check? Because...
Iowa, Indiana.
All right, okay.
Illinois minus Chicago, Wisconsin.
We're not dunking on populations here. I'm just making a point.
Missouri, Mississippi, Oklahoma.
I'm just making a point that out of all the 50...
Kentucky, Tennessee.
50 states...
minus Nashville.
All these major cities, and they only released them in 10 theaters across the entire country. Now, granted, as we saw, you know, we freaked out. We were like, holy smokes, Rhode Island's very populated.
It's like the size of...
I I don't know. Anyway, as we saw, long story short, you guys know because you watched my reaction to it, which means we didn't go. We didn't get tickets. It sold out in probably like a heartbeat. But of course, yeah, from a marketing standpoint to generate hype, granted, I don't even think they needed to generate that much more hype because it was the biggest cliffhanger ever and all of us were like, ugh. That was the most agonizing wait between episodes with, the reveal of the world between worlds and Aiden and holy shnikes. Like, already I was chomping at the bit to watch the next episode. But yeah, on their part, it's actually incredibly smart if you're trying to generate interest and get people to watch the show.
Nope.
Yeah, announce that you're releasing essentially, I keep referring to it as like loosely the mid-season finale because it was like the mid-season climax. It was huge. It was an event, a canonical event,
Arkansas.
Good one. True.
Disclaimer, it's not a ranking of best states to worst states.
No, we're just thinking of not the
lower population states. I love a lot of those states, and I've lived in a lot of those states. So no shade to those states.
We're not dunking on them. We're simply acknowledging population. But again, we're not looking at official statistics here. So take everything with a fat grain of salt.
Just subtracting the most populated, you subtract New York and Florida and California and Texas.
That leaves
big Alaska.
40 plus states. True. True. Anyway, point is, that's a really smart decision because all of the rest of us who were like, holy shiz, this is mind-blowing. They're releasing this in theaters. This must be the most amazing episode coming this week. Like, we were like, you put the pieces together, you're like, they're not going to release garbage and give it a theatrical release to all the lucky souls who got to go see it. So, I can see where they're coming from that angle. However, what is the harm?
Sean's calling out your math. I subtracted 4, and you're like, well, you said 40-something. So
I said that leaves 40 plus states, because y'all know I can't think on the spot, so I knew it was still 40 plus states left. Anyway.
Sean, you've been to all 50 states?
Jeez. Holy
awesome.
shnikes.
Good for you.
Do you have like one of those coin maps for each one?
That's awesome.
Those things are so cool.
I don't think I know anyone that's been to all 50.
No, that's an accomplishment.
Good stuff. Anyway, sorry, I'm distracting from your...
Anyway, Lord Fowl raises a good point. Anyway, the point I was trying to make is maybe perhaps this rumor is, incited from a place of the thirst in the fandom for a theatrical release, and Lord Fowl makes a good point. We're getting 3 new Star Wars movies in a few years. I think perhaps the rumors were confusing Mandalorian Season 4 with Filoni's movie. That could be. That's very valid, and that's what I'm wondering. Like, again, that's why, I was hesitant to even touch on this subject, but I think it's worth talking about. Because, again, in conjunction, with what we're seeing with Rebel Moon and whatnot, I think it's worth addressing, and the current state of the fandom and the fatigue. And, you guys watched our episode of Evil Ewok last week. Like, people like Alex are kind of sick of what's happening right now in the Star Wars fandom. Not to put words in his mouth, but...
Sick of what? Just...
the lack
Disney
of quality.
Oh.
Seemingly. Again, not to put words in anyone's mouth. But, I think one thing... So, I'm not going to necessarily subscribe to the fact or preach as if Mando Season 4 is actually going to be a film. From here on out, I'll just speak hypothetically. But if Mando Season 4 were to be a film, or, not even, if there were to be less of these limited series, and for example, like less limited series and more theatrical releases, like Kenobi. I think Kenobi could have benefited from a feature film budget.
Yeah, it's
and
a budget
shrink it
thing.
down.
It's a budget thing.
Yeah,
it's a budget
totally.
Thing.
Totally.
It's a budget thing. They're going for maximum number of things they can get out of the budget versus honing in on key projects to maximize the budget per project. Like, if they were to say we're scrapping Skeleton Crew and which I think this is canceled now, but the New Republic movie, that's
Rogue
long
Squadron?
canceled. Yeah, I think that's long canceled.
I actually don't know what the current state of... I feel like it's been shelved. I don't know, which is kind of code for canceled. I think I could be wrong.
I don't know. I feel like they've tried to just go for how much can we get out there versus how can we focus on a few things that we love and just go all in on them.
Dedicate the quality to those.
Yeah. Like Kenobi's a prime example, and Sean has a good point of like the main characters of that show are Kenobi, Vader, Anakin, Luke, and Leia. The 4 most important characters to all of Star Wars. If you're going to write a story about those characters, they should be treated with the same financial investment as the first 6 saga films that those 4 star in. But instead, they got a lower financial treatment than Andor, Ahsoka. I think you list every other Disney Plus live action series, and Kenobi's at the bottom in terms of the budget. It's also only 6 episodes versus the other ones are longer. So you have more episodes. It's naturally more budget, which is fair. But still, it's like it just something seems off with taking the most iconic characters of the franchise and under providing financially for what that story would warrant, given the characters. So it's interesting with the Mando season 4. If it's going to be a movie, you say, okay, Mandalorian has been in all of our lives since what, 2018?
Sweet Lord, yeah. Like 2019.
That's when season 1 came out, I think, around then.
It's horrific when you think that that's like 5 years ago at this point. Like, oh God, Jesus.
And so it's like these characters have been here for a long time. Obviously, Mandalorian is, I mean, I think it is probably the most popular show, most watched show on Disney Plus.
Yeah, probably.
So it's like, okay, you have a show about a character and it's the most watched thing on Disney Plus. Is it in their interest, or do they have enough proof in the pudding of, okay, now we can take this thing to the big screen and put hundreds of millions of dollars into 1, 2.5, 3 hours
Actually,
film.
really good point. Of all the Disney, who was it? Lord Fowle raised a good point. Kenobi was originally intended to be a film, and they changed it to a miniseries. I think you're right about that. But you raise a good point. Of all of the Disney Plus shows currently to be promoted to a theatrical release or to be promoted to feature film status, I think Mando's actually the most appropriate, because I would venture to say it's the most, well, actually not in recent years. I feel like the season 1, I think consecutively is very praised amongst the fandom for the most part. I feel like in terms of consistent consecutive praise, granted it has more seasons than shows like Book of Boba Fett, Andor, and Ahsoka, combined at this point. But I think consecutively, for the most part, Mando numbers do really well. And for the most part, I think it is like a unanimous people enjoy the show, really love the characters. I hesitate to say that because I know recent seasons have changed people's minds a little bit, but I still think for the most part, people still speak higher of like Mando season 3 than of Book of Boba Fett. This is not personal, by the way. I think
Book of Boba
my
Fett's probably
interpretation.
The most hated on series.
Unfortunately, which I think is unfair, but it's another subject.
I think if we were to rank, if we're going to do a tier ranking, I think Boba goes to the bottom. I think there's a gap story-wise. Like all the other ones, I think the story is pretty cohesive and clear. I think Boba, the story, most people are scratching their heads like, this is the story. And then you get 2 Mandalorian season 2.5 episodes thrown in there. So like Boba was certainly I think, advertised as kind of a filler show to bridge the gap between Mandalorian seasons and other shows. And I mean, they straight up threw Mandalorian episodes in there. But I would think that, I mean, did you and I both still enjoy it? Yeah.
I love
parts of that show that we love, and
the
2 Mandalorian episodes are like some of the best Star Wars television episodes that we have ever gotten.
Yeah, and the Book of Boba Fett,
even though Boba shows up in them for a collective 30 seconds between the 2 episodes,
minimal screen time
is one thing, but
yeah, it's another.
But yeah, I mean, you have to, when ranking Star Wars content, you have to always preface the conversation with everyone here watching maybe except for Barb. And the two of us are going to watch anything that comes out.
Yes.
And we're going to enjoy, and we would rather watch anything that comes out than anything that's not Star Wars because it's Star Wars. So it's not like, wow, this is the lowest at the list, so this, I hate this and I'm never going to watch it. And
No,
I'd rather go to work for 10 days straight and not come out than watch this. No, it's like, if Book of Boba is on the TV, I'm going to sit there and watch it and enjoy it.
It's in the scheme of the content. Yeah.
That's why everybody is all in the comparison game, because it's like, it's fun to compare stuff, because when you like everything, it's like, oh, what's the best? What is my favorite? What would I prefer to watch?
It's also a symbol of, like, you know, for example, when Andor came out, in regards to the quality, I don't think it's too controversial to say that show visually just looks better than
Andor?
All the other shows. Yes, all the other Disney Plus Star Wars shows. I haven't really watched many other Disney Plus series aside from Loki, and tonight we'll be starting Percy Jackson. Excited.
Yeah. Yep.
But you know, when something like Andor comes out and people were equating that to, and I still think this rings true, HBO level, you know, you could easily pluck that show and put it on another one of these really high performing networks, streaming platforms that historically put out very renowned content. You know, HBO, I think, just is the first that comes to mind, but all of them now, you know, Amazon Prime puts out really good stuff. Like,
when you spend $1 billion on a show, it's gonna look great.
It better. But
there's an example of the majority of people who watch that show argue that all the budget went to visuals.
Oh, that's not what I'm not even just talking about Rings of Power. There's other Amazon Prime.
But that's the biggest one. It's the most expensive show of all time.
Yeah. Anyway, to have something like Andor, which would survive, I think, easily on any of these other really top tier platforms, it's fun to compare, but also begs the question of, like, okay, why don't all the shows have that potential? It's like Star Wars has the capability for all of our shows to look like that. Granted, of course, depending on, and listen, I think
it comes down to
yes,
the Disney executives that are ultimately in charge of the budget decision making.
I think a lot of us, you know, we all, as lay people, when it comes to, you know, in the fandom, we don't know what happens behind those closed doors. We don't actually know how it works. They're dealing with very high stakes stuff when it comes to all those budgets and allocation of funds and whatnot. So I feel like, you know, the people in those positions are very misunderstood. For those of us who don't know what actually goes on behind the scenes, behind closed doors, you know, everyone always dogs on, well, why did Kenobi at the end of the day, why did it get the worst budget?
Yeah,
but if you look at the end of the day, but originally the intention was for it to be a movie. So it's like, you know, there's people there who do want to give it that pedestal and who were probably maybe fighting for it to stay as a movie. I don't know. Point is, we don't know. So I never want anytime we discuss budgets or the monetary stuff to sound like we're judging the people over there. Granted, we can have our critiques of how things are allocated. Like, at the end of the day, well, how did this go from being theatrical release intended to the lowest budget of all of the Disney Plus shows? Granted, less episodes, so that's naturally going to be a factor, but it's okay. I think it's okay to critique, of course. I just never want it to sound like we're dogging on and judging, dunking on those people. Can do better. Yes, exactly. They
obviously they're in that position because they've
very
made
high
correct
stakes
decisions that has made Disney a lot of money. So
yeah,
and that's okay. Obviously, we have our point of view, but we also don't have any insight into the overall Disney portfolio and fiscal quarter earnings and all that stuff.
We don't know.
Yeah, well, they're public, so you can see them after they come out, but obviously all the decisions that go into
we don't know
what projects get put when, and dealing with TV shows and movies and merchandise and Disney parks and gaming and all the different food and restaurants and everything that Disney touches, which is essentially everything at this point. Fox and ESPN and Hulu and
it's everywhere.
Everything. Exactly. So there's a lot.
Yeah,
there's definitely a lot.
And at this rate, I think isn't, you know, Disney's partnering with Hulu now. You can sign up for Disney Plus and for just an extra bit more.
Hulu.
Or
Disney
like, I
Hulu,
think Hulu's
like
about to be. I feel like Hulu is maybe gonna go. No, I don't want to say that. Because Hulu's one of the OGs. But anyway, point being, yes. In case somebody from Disney is ever watching this, I always just want to cover our backs and make it known that we. And exactly what Tom said, we're not coming at this from a critical place. We're coming from you guys know we're sweaties. We watch all the material regardless, and we actually enjoy it all, you know, regardless. So you guys know the intentions here. You guys know our vibe.
Yeah,
But
and since Star Wars is generational, that also plays into the decision making, right? Because that's why the prequels weren't even mentioned or talked about or celebrated or monitored or
like
even
eons.
advertised from 2005 until 2016, whenever the prequel love eventually got enough traction to a level that was recognizable by an older generation who were in those decision-making positions. Then we get Clone Wars remake, and then Dave Filoni, they start tying in these live-action shows with prequels and acknowledging them to the point where we get Kenobi, and Hayden and Ewan are back actually in a performing role. But until it gained enough traction and the generational gap started to close, anyone who's going to say, oh, where should I put $200 million? Should I put it into
where should I put this?
Revenge of the Sith Part 2? Or should I put it into a sequel trilogy movie that is going to basically be copy-paste of A New Hope?
Oh, we don't have to open that can of worms.
Thing. So if you're the executive, you're going to say, okay, that second option sounds way safer and is going to make the shareholders a lot happier because it's going to make a lot of money.
Yeah. Well,
versus, the last time I saw Hayden, he was the most hated person on the planet, apparently, by Star Wars fans. So why would we do anything with Hayden? Why would we bring a Hayden Force Ghost into the picture? Why would we bring an Obi-Wan Force Ghost into the picture? Why would we even dare touch that realm when if you just throw Han's face on screen and kill him, spoiler, then
10-year-old spoiler.
Then you're
that was like 9 years ago.
8.
Oh God, Jesus, ew.
December. This came out December 2015.
Jesus. Yeah.
But
no.
Anyway,
no, you made a really good point, and that's you know things that were once a liability amongst the fandom per se. In regards to fan perception, are now renowned, beloved. Now that we're not 8 years old anymore, and we can all say, "Hey, we really liked this." Also, thanks to social media and whatnot. When I was an 8-year-old, I didn't know what the general fan consensus was about Star Wars. I just thought those were the shiz. So the prequels specifically, which, and this is probably what's going to happen with the sequels, they're already delving into it. I was about to say give it 10 years, but by the time the new Rey film comes out, it will have been 10 years. And kids who were 8.
Revenge of the Sith to Force Awakens.
Kids who were 8 o'clock. Kids who were like 8 years old when Force Awakens came out are going to be freaking like 18. They're going to be able to actively say, hey, we actually really like this. And, the sequels will have their renaissance probably. If this age of streaming continues, which, I don't know, is something we can talk about. Do you think the streaming model is working, or do you think Star Wars should pivot towards allocating their energy and dedicating their forces to the films? Because honestly, I think, I actually haven't thought about this. There's actually a lot riding on these 3 movies that have been announced. The Rey film, Dave Filoni's film, and the Dawn of the Jedi, super 1,000-year-old prequel film. There's like a lot riding on them. Not even just the fact that it will have been close to 10 years, or not 10 years. It will still be a while before, it's going to have been a long time since we've gotten a Star Wars movie on the big screen. Not even just that. The pressure's on there. Just the fact that you're following a long dormant stage. But I feel like the state of the fandom right now is always tumultuous. I always say this, but the state of the fandom is like never good. I feel like we're never intact. But all that kind of combined, there is a lot right. Like, these movies need to be actually really good. Otherwise, I think there will be a major problem, because right now we're getting an oversaturated. Listen, y'all know I don't want to call it oversaturation, because like Tom said, we'll freaking watch anything. There could be a new Star Wars show coming out every single week, and we're gonna watch it. So like, I have no complaints. But also, I bet
Travis is gonna watch it.
Yeah.
Shout out to Travis.
Travis, thank you for the super chat. You can also, thank you, we appreciate it. But you also get to ask a question if you want. How's it going? Feel free to ask.
Hope you're doing well.
Benefit of the super chat is if you ask something or say something, we will read it. So thank you. But
Also, do you recognize Travis's name? I do not. I don't think.
Travis
so.
Mitchell? No, I don't know.
Yeah.
Unless you've been hanging out, lurking around. If this is your first live stream, welcome.
Yeah.
And thanks for coming out of the gate with a super chat. No less. So thank you. But yeah, feel free if you want. You can ask something or share your 2 cents, no pressure. But yeah, I haven't actually thought about it until now, but there's a lot riding on these movies to be really exceptional. So, that could be one thing, like, if there were to be, which I feel like there is going to be a pause because, where was it? D23? I forget or Disney Investors Day, when Kathleen Kennedy announced the pitch, the trajectory for the next 5 years. And we're already kind of at the tail end of that now. We're getting Skeleton Crew and we're getting Acolyte. Granted, the ongoing shows like Andor, we're getting a 2nd season. Bad Batch, excuse me, we're getting the final season. But after that, what other... There's no new pitch for a live-action Star Wars Disney Plus series. Everything from here on out, for the foreseeable future, aside from, of course, Acolyte and Skeleton Crew.
From what they've announced.
Yeah. So, I feel like once we conclude, and Andor's only supposed to be 2 seasons, correct? Yes, because first season was going to be the kind of exposition, and then the second season...
Andor's a 2-season thing.
Yeah, running right up against the events of Rogue One. So, yeah, we don't have ongoing seasons of Andor. Somebody mentioned in the chat, Dave confirmed that he is working on Ahsoka Season 2, which, granted, who knows how many seasons that will go on for, but at least we know it has a 2nd season in store. Who knows how long Mando's going to be going on for, but as of right now... Everything other than Acolyte and Skeleton Crew is all just continuations of original shows, but do we know if there's any other new shows in the works? I don't know. So I don't know. This is also coming from a place of fear because you guys know, I say what I observe in the fandom, which I feel like there's kind of a fatigue and criticism of, the, what's the word? Disparity? In quality amongst the shows. That might not be the right word, but I've observed people voicing concerns about, maybe Star Wars needs to put things on pause and, reconsider and come back strong. I don't know. That's not my own personal opinion, but I feel like, coming from my own place of fear, shoot, I'm also just nervous that I don't want Star Wars to go back to a dormant stage like there was between Revenge of the Sith. Granted, yeah, there was the Clone Wars and Rebels and whatnot, but I don't want it to go back to complete dormant inactivity. So I don't, but I feel like there's no new original Disney Plus Star Wars shows in the pipeline right now that have yet to be pitched. I feel like we're at the tail end of that big wave that was announced at Investors Day forever ago now at this point. So, I don't know. I say that, again, like I said, from a place of fear, because I don't want... It's a fine line. I want more material, but I just all want it to be good. Yeah. Travis, I remember being the kid and how it felt having an adult tell me the prequels sucked. Hearing that my version of what we both love sucked and made me consider... maybe be considerate of how I criticize the newer films. Yes, I freaking love that mentality, and I preach this all the time. And here's one thing that's different, juxtaposition of our childhood versus kids today. Like I said, I wasn't on Facebook or Twitter, God forbid, as an 8-year-old. I wasn't on social platforms to hear people dunking on my favorite movies. Kids today freaking are. Kids today have their own iPads and cell phones by the time they're 8 years old. So the kids who were 8 when Force Awakens and Last Jedi and all of that came out were probably actually online seeing these people spew awful, vile hate about these movies and saying with such conviction.
There's a difference here, though.
Okay.
Because just for the hate, there's the exact same level of voice for the love.
That's a good point.
So you can see both sides. What Travis is talking about is a face-to-face interaction of an adult telling you like that movie, you suck. You have horrible taste. You're human trash. You're pathetic. That's what he's talking about, which is different. Anyone who does that, it was in
Someone's saying that to your
2005
face.
or 2015 or 2017 or 2019 is a bottom tier human. But yes, today, yes, there's negativity. There's always going to be negativity, but there's also positivity. You can search, if you just search hashtag Ray on TikTok, you're going to see all these Ray tributes and love for Ray, and people can just surround themselves with all the love for the sequels that they want. If you hate sequels, you can search Ray sucks, and you can just surround yourself with all these TikToks who are just trashing Ray, hating on Dizzy Ridley. You can find all of that.
It's just an echo chamber of whatever you want it to be.
But yeah, the face-to-face, it's like when you go to Celebration. You know there are people at Celebration, which you haven't done, so you can't speak from experience. But if you go to Celebration or Comic-Con or wherever, like, you know there are people that hate sequels, hate the prequels. I'm sure some people hate the originals. Like a young kid going to watch A New Hope, they'd be like, what is this? This looks like it looks old. You know, they wouldn't be interested maybe, but no one is there. Like, you're not going up to someone who's cosplaying as Rey and be like, wow, I wish you picked a better character. Are you?
You would hope. Yes, that's
like,
not.
No one does that. That's not what people do. That's not what people do.
No, and I say that all the time. Like, these people with these channels who all they do is, you know, profit off of just spewing this vitriol and this hate. And I'm going to refrain from using the word toxic because I'm trying to remove that word from my vocabulary because I don't want to, you know, I know at my core they're not actually toxic people. I know in real life if we were to get face to face and have a conversation, they wouldn't say half the things they say alone to their camera in their studio for a YouTube video because it's easy to say whatever you want.
It's all about know your audience.
Well, it's also easier to say it to your camera by yourself, knowing your audience likes that stuff and you know it's going to blow up and trend. Versus I know in my heart, at least I cling to this belief that, you know, if you were to have an interaction with these people face to face, they would not behave like that. They wouldn't look an 8-year-old child in the face and tell you this movie sucks. The sequels aren't Star Wars. You're not a real fan. They wouldn't do that in real life. So no, you make a good point. You know, the echo chamber of social media is not reminiscent of how these people would actually behave and how you've seen people. Like, hopefully we'll be remedying that in 2025. Fingers crossed. We're trying. We hope we can go to Celebration. As of now, we're trying to plan on it. So hopefully soon I will no longer be living in FOMO.
So anyway, tying it back to the Mando movie.
Yeah, you never mentioned what you want. What do you think? What do you think?
I mean, I think that it is interesting. I mean, I think they're at a point now where they kind of, I mean, the way that they ended season 3, they ended it a way where a lot of people argued that that could be the end of the show. Like, if they ended the show, I think if they do a Mando season 4 movie, they're not going to call it and refer to it as the Mando season 4 movie. It would just be a movie in the Mando verse. But then the question is, okay, what's Dave's already movie they announced supposed to be about if it's not the Mandoverse movie? Or is it the same thing? Are they separate things? Would they be a first movie in a series and a second movie in a series? I think those are the first questions that pop into my head. Also, Dave. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you very much.
Dave the GOAT.
As a person said earlier, you went to the theaters during the originals, and I enjoyed the prequels, and I think, honestly, the sequels were rushed to make. No, that's valid.
It's a good point.
That's valid.
And they were. You look at the originals and the prequels, each had 3 years of, you know, pre-production and production. Well, Phantom Menace had way more than 3 years of pre-production, but 3 full years of full production for each of the movies. Versus the sequels, you had 2 years, and they were working on the story treatments for all of them at the same time, but different people were working it. Like, you have JJ working on Force Awakens. Rian Johnson is working at the story for The Last Jedi at the same time, but they're not talking to each other because they're deep in the weeds on their own movies. So, yeah, I agree. That's something that has always bothered me
Yeah.
about them. You know, the focus of the first 6 movies were George telling the story he wanted to tell, versus the focus of the sequels were a lot more than just trying to tell a cohesive story to the 6 movies that came before it.
Yeah.
Which, again, that comes down to the decision makers at the top saying, this is what we want to do, this is why we're doing it, here's the benefit of doing it this way, here's the cons of doing it this way. In their eyes, the benefits outweigh the cons. So we got.
Yeah. I love Charlie's comment. So help me, Tom Cruise. I'm going to Celebration in Japan. I hope the wills. I will see you there. Freaking let's manifest it. I hope so. I really hope so. We kind of, we didn't like trap ourselves in it, but you know, I was having severe FOMO. As you guys know, I couldn't go. I originally had plans to go to Celebration 2022. Due to work reasons, I couldn't go, so Tom went with his brother, and I was having severe FOMO. We obviously couldn't go in 2023 this year because I was abroad.
Picture of the 2 of us with Ian McDiarmid in the
Yes.
back there, center picture, but
The Padme
Looks a little
print
dark.
that he got during his binge shopping at this, all the stands and everything, the market. And as you guys know, we didn't go this year, so I was like, no matter what happens, we are going to the next Celebration. And then they announced Japan 2025, and I was like, well, I did say no matter what, so
new part of the world for us.
yes, it would be fun. It would be very fun. So I'll keep y'all posted as it gets closer, because it would also be so freaking fun to do a meetup or something. That's something I have yet to do. So that would be really, really fun.
Yeah. This is a good point from Lord Fowl. Filoni and Jon Favreau already confirmed season 4.
Oh, Lord Fowl,
So,
thank you.
I think it's important to think about the timing of when they did that and the timing of when these rumors have started. I don't know, Lord Fowl, if you know when they confirmed it, but if they confirmed it months ago, or even, I mean, honestly, even weeks ago, there could have been some change of heart, decision-making change, project restructuring that happened behind the scenes, even in a few weeks, that could have then spawned it to actually being a movie. So unless they confirmed it like within the last week, they confirmed it forever ago, I mean, with Lucasfilm's track record, we have to be flexible in our understanding of what's confirmed and what's not, because they have changed stuff that's been confirmed in the past. Kenobi's an example. Rumor mill of Kenobi movie. They were literally going to announce it. They were ready to announce it, and then last minute they changed it and it became a series. So
now I wonder if, you know, this is what I wanted to talk about. So we'll see how Rebel Moon performs, obviously. I think the hype is definitely built around it. And of course, for us Star Wars fans, you know, the pull of, oh, this is Zack Snyder's rendition of Star Wars is obviously enticing. And again, trailers look really, really good. So we'll see how well it performs. But I'd be curious, you know, one thing I wanted to talk about is whether we think that would be a better model, you know, going back to a lot rides on the theatrical releases, but would it be better if they did allocate all their resources to just feature films, or doing what like Netflix is doing, have it released in theaters for a week and then it becomes free to everybody, you know, on Disney Plus after that, and you can go see it in the theater if you want, and then you can watch it for free at home right after. You know, like, would that be a better, I don't know, we can talk about it. I don't know if that would be a better model if they were to abandon this season we've had, this era of streaming miniseries, you know, stuff like that, back-to-back shows. Because I hesitate to say that would be better. Granted, do I think the films would hopefully have better quality? Yes. But your biggest thing is like, well, no, it wouldn't. You might prefer that because your biggest argument is always, well, it's agonizing to wait week after week for episodes, and that's not a good model because it just generates anger in people if they didn't like one episode and then they have to wait a whole week for the next one, versus it's supposed to be told as a whole story.
It's that, but also if there's time in between the story beats, then there's way more time for people to theorize and and speculate.
And then be disappointed.
And try and build the story from there in their own head, and then you come back next week and it's something completely different.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, well, I just wasted a week thinking about all this stuff and nothing came true. Versus with the movie, you have one cohesive story with some threads that are going to set you up for the next one, but you leave the theater experience with, at least for the original trilogy and the prequels, you leave the theater experience with, okay, that was a cohesive story, beginning, middle, end, it was great, but there's through line threads that clearly set up what's going to happen next and where it's going to go from here. Like there's traditionally not cliffhangery, which The Force Awakens is the first film to introduce a major cliffhanger, and they kind of, and I think the problem for that is it's not really a true beginning, middle, end. It's a beginning, middle, end, but it just skyrockets at the end. Like, oh, we're finally going to see Luke. This is what we've been waiting for 40 years. Yada, yada, yada. Mark Hamill back for 40 years later. Yada, yada. And it just skyrockets with anticipation. And then you have 2 years of full speculation of trying to anticipate where that skyrocket exponential trajectory is going to go. And then you come 2 years later to The Last Jedi and he tosses saber off the cliff and tells Rey to get off his island.
But maybe.
And you're like, okay, that's just like the complete drastic opposite. Like the change and speculation is
the deflated energy in that moment.
Versus if you think like Phantom Menace to Attack of the Clones or Attack of the Clones to Revenge of the Sith. It's like, yeah, there's time in between.
Yeah.
So one, by having time, years in between the story, that just helps settle it down before the new beginning actually happens. But then also, like, well, if you think about between any of the original 6 movies, the ending is a clean cut ending, but you can anticipate what's going to happen to the characters next in terms of, like, you know, character development wise. But yeah, the story can be totally different, but you know that you're going to get the beginning, middle, and end when you go into the theater. So yeah, Skywalker's Academy, which built expectations, and it didn't just build expectations, it built in unbelievable expectations that were just so high that, I mean, they set themselves up to basically disappoint everybody in terms of how the story was going to continue.
Yeah. Keep talking. I have to go stir something in the crock pot, so you keep up with this.
Okay. Yeah. So I
you're on a roll right now.
Yeah. Story wise, it was, interesting decision to do it that way. But anyway, so yeah, Chris, this is an interesting take. Problem with Star Wars TV shows that they usually don't have enough story for a season. 2-hour movie is a better way to tell a full story. See, that's kind of, I agree with you in a way. The fact that it's a better way to tell a full story, I'm with you. Better might not be the word that I would use. I would probably use the word cohesive. Versus having enough story. I think that if you were to take like a Mandalorian season and just release it all at once, there is, that would be an enjoyable movie. And I think there's enough story to have to take that and put it into a movie. But yeah. So that's, I think that is an interesting take though. Yeah, definitely from the cohesiveness. I mean, I know I get frustrated waiting week by week by week for a show to come out over the span of 8 weeks. And then, naturally you see an episode, you love it. First thoughts are, okay, what happens next? There's a next episode. So how do you speculate what happens next? Where your brain's just naturally going to try and figure out, oh, this is what's going to happen. This is going to happen. This character's going to do this. And when it doesn't happen, you feel a sense of like, it's not necessarily like angry at yourself or disappointed in yourself that you didn't come up with the right answer. It's more of, wow, I thought like, it seemed like this was the clear path, like this was the choice. And it's almost like you feel like you wasted time, like thinking about it and speculating for when it actually went in a totally different direction. Versus if you get it all at once, it's okay, here's the fact of how the whole story plays out, beginning, middle, end. It's like, okay, that's the full story. The counter argument would be, okay, well, the sequel trilogies, and if people hate the prequels, it's like, okay, well, for people who hate the story, it's like, you can say, okay, we waited 20 years between Return of the Jedi and Phantom Menace, and 20 years of speculation, and then they come out with the Phantom Menace, and people are disappointed with the story. It's like, okay, yeah, that's a fair argument as well. But I think that is, I think, yeah, looking in between trilogies is tough. It's a tough ask. But ultimately, it ends up being a cohesive story, at least with the prequels and the originals, versus the in between sequel expectations, like particularly between Force Awakens and Last Jedi. I mean, you don't end on a down slope. It is, I mean, it just is a skyrocket into the air for anticipation and cliffhangeriness. So, I mean, JJ was like, yeah, have fun trying to top that, buddy. I got the greatest cliffhanger of all time.
So I don't know if you've covered it, but one thing you raise a good point. Yes, there's almost something worse about waiting 2 years, between movies to speculate versus waiting a week between episodes of a series. However, what if, if they were to release, standalone movies, like something like Rogue One, which is complete story and is, I think, regarded as one of the more favored recent Disney era Star Wars projects. I feel like Rogue One is pretty unanimously very much praised and appreciated, and it is its own story. Granted, actually, no, I think a lot of people, I know there's complaints that the beginning is slow, it's boring, because yes, there is a lot of exposition, which a trilogy of movies, for example, by the time you get into it, you don't have to do necessarily so much exposition work by the time you're in the thick of it. So that could also be, that could be a fault or a flaw, rather, an area for critique of standalone films, depending on how it's handled, especially for Star Wars, where probably do need a lot of, exposition, depending on, especially if you were going to do, well, maybe not, for series like Mando were to culminate in a one-time finale theatrical film experience, standalone, and this is the end of the series, then there's no room for people to be like, oh my god, I gotta wait another 2 years. And you leave the theater either hopefully happy.
Yeah, it should be it's all about the momentum. Where is the momentum when you're leaving the theater? If the momentum when you're leaving is like you cut the big story straight in the middle and it's a massive cliffhanger, if you don't pick up on that same trajectory, then way more people are going to be disappointed. Versus if you have a clear resolution when you're walking out the theater with, foreshadowing and threads of what could happen in the future, then people are going to be like if people are fully satisfied and they feel like they have answers leaving the theater, then whenever the sequel to that movie comes out, they're going to say, okay, I was satisfied with the previous ending. I think I have some ideas of what's going to happen going into this. But we know that the beginning is going to be some new place. Characters are in a different state. And then some new conflict is going to arise that they have to go resolve. So it's like I think a good analogy could be like surfing.
Where are we going with
Right?
this? What
So
are we
think
talking
surfing.
about?
So when you're surfing or bodyboarding or boogie boarding, right? The best boogie board, the best surf, the best bodyboard is when you catch the wave right when it's about to break. Right? The wave is at its height. That's the peak momentum of the wave. So you get set there, and then the wave carries you down, and you ride the wave all the way to the beach, and you're having a great time. Okay. So a perfect movie, a perfect story, is when you get on your board, you go out and wait for the wave, meaning you've sat in your seat in the movie theater, and then the story comes, picks you up right at the climax, and then you ride it all the way through, and then when you hit the beach, it's like you're out of the movie theater. You get out of your seat. But what The Force Awakens did is you get on your boogie board and you're sitting in your seat with more anticipation than you've ever went to ride a wave. So you're chilling there in the water. The story picks you up, but then it continues. At the end of the movie, you're on your board at the top of the wave. And then you're at the top of the wave for 2 years. And then the next movie comes in and basically tries to reset you back at the bottom of the wave, which is obviously, if you're thinking about, oh, I'm at the top of the wave, and then instantly face down in the sand, it's a rough way to end it. It's not a continuous flow of the wave. So it went from top of the wave back to before you even got on the wave. So does that make sense? I think that was a pretty good analogy. Right?
Yes.
Right?
But I thought you were beginning to start off saying,
let's kill some sharks.
let's boogie.
Yeah, it's like you're at the top of the wave, and then a great white comes and swallows you up, and then spits you back out on the beach.
Star Wars.
And you got to get back on your board and go think about it.
Yeah.
It's like being suspended at the top of the wave for 2 years, and then you wait 2 years, and a great white just gobbles you up and spits you out on the beach. That's or another wave hit you unexpectedly. Yeah, you wait there too long, then a wave just comes in and knocks you out.
Yeah.
So.
What was I gonna say? No, I thought you were taking this as a comparison of there is a thrill of leaving the theater knowing like, all right, I gotta wait 2 years and now then we'll get the next installment, you know? There is a kind of rush of like, all right, in 2 years from now we'll have the next one, versus I thought you were comparing that to versus, yeah, like Rogue One was great, but you leave the theater and then, you know, there's not going to be another one. Granted, though, in Rogue One, obviously you can go home and immediately watch New Hope, you know, because it bleeds into each other. So it had that benefit versus, you know, would a Star Wars standalone film, you know, completely different, you know, for example, like, you know, I guess we'll use the sequels one, the Rey one. I think naturally everyone's going to want, like, people are going to want more. They're going to be like, that can't be it. And I'm sure it won't. Depending on how the Rey film does, I'm sure they would continue. Or I don't know if they would create another trilogy.
They need to, the whole point of a movie is supposed to be a standalone story. A beginning, a middle, and an end.
Yes.
You're waiting out in the water for the wave. The wave is the story. It grabs a hold of you, takes you on the wild ride. You hit the peak of the wave. And then you cruise down with excitement to the end. And then you're like, wow, that was great. I love surfing. And then you get up and leave the movie. And then you're like, I can't wait to go surfing again on the same board, in the same ocean. And
neither of us surf, similar. By the way. Neither of us.
I started this with surfing, bodyboarding,
okay,
bodyboarding. Yeah,
you like to body surf.
You got to hit the wave at its climax. And then that way it carries you. If you're too early, it's just going to go right underneath you. If you're too late, you're going to get demolished. So you have to time it perfectly right in the middle, the apex.
The apex. Now we're getting scientific.
So, yeah. So I think, like, if you're going to have a trilogy, if I was a production company and I have an idea for a 3-part movie series, yes, during the first movie, there's going to be a centralized plot at the beginning, middle, end, and a big climax. But there has to be, obviously, foreshadowing and threads and clues that will carry into and be addressed in the next movie. But if your standalone story is good enough, and there are teases of what happens in the future and what happens in the past, then that's going to get your audience, that's already going to do enough to get that same audience back in the seat for the next movie. Versus, yes, if you cut off the movie at the top of the wave, people are going to be like, oh my God, I need to, like, I want to keep riding the wave. I have to come back because I need to continue the wave. I have to stay on the wave. Like, I'm at this all-time high in the story. I need to know what happens. I need to finish out the wave. But if you don't pick up the story exactly where the peak of the wave was, then I feel like you're setting yourself up for failure. So, like, let's say, here's the hypothetical. Since this analogy has spawned thinking about The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, let's say The Last Jedi opened exactly at that scene. Arguably, maybe it would have been worse because it was Force Awakens set it up to be like, oh, the return of the hero, the return of the legend. We finally found him. Like, that was the wave. And then you wait 2 years, and then it tries to conjoin at the same spot. Like, the opening scene, let's say, is literally the same shot of Rey and Luke. Like, at the same time, they didn't start with the whole Hux your mama joke. They actually went straight to Octo and conjoined at that scene. It's still not the same wave because he tosses saber and goes away. So, like, technically, even if they started at the same spot, literally, story-wise, it's not the same wave. Big bot shirt idea: monkey riding a wave.
Oh my God.
That's a good idea, Charlie. But anyway, like, like A New Hope to Empire Strikes Back. How does A New Hope end? With the ceremony. It's a nice ending.
It is
saying,
very fine.
Yeah, we won the battle. Everybody's happy. Everybody gets awarded. But you know that Darth Vader's still out there, right? Like, Darth Vader survives. They set that up. You know that the Empire's still there. You know that they didn't defeat the whole Empire yet. And you know that the like, Luke is going to go on and train to be a Jedi. But the way they ended that specific film, it's very, wow. I just rode the best wave of my life. I'm on the beach now, and I'm super happy.
Look at Visitor Zeta's
But I can't wait to ride the new wave when the next movie eventually comes out. Visitor Zeta.
To continue your analogy.
For some people, yes, that's
Got
a good
everyone
analogy.
going along with us now.
Yep, that's a great analogy. For some people, it was. Yeah, you're suspended, you're frozen in time on that board at the top of the wave, but you're sitting up there baking in the sun for 2 years, sweating like crazy.
Oh my God.
You know, as soon as someone hits play on the time machine, I'm instantly gonna slip off the board because it's drenched in sweat and melted off sunscreen and I'm
Ew, all right. This is turning too graphic. This is turning too graphic.
reason for being slipping off the board.
Oh my God. Cal Estes, let's go!
Cal.
Glad Dork Discourse is back in full swing. I'm freaking honored that you're here.
Yeah.
Good to see you. Literally my idol. Whenever, if y'all don't follow Cal Estes, you should totally go subscribe to him right this second. He has amazing lightsaber combat choreography clips that just make me wish I could do half the amazing things he does. And their next installment of their fan film is coming very, very soon. So stay tuned, everybody. It's a good time. Go check them out now if you haven't already. Dave, thank you so much for the chat, my friend. And I saw originally that you sent this as one of your free members chats, and now you're sending it as a super chat, which you did not have to do. Thank you. Who do you think can play Balin Skull? You saw my idea to replace the great Ray Stevenson. I stand with my recommendation of Liev Schreiber.
I don't know who that is.
Have you seen... I'm trying to think of what... You would recognize his face. Have you seen the first Wolverine movie? The one where he goes to the island and frees all the mutant kids, and then he gets shot and loses his memory, and his girlfriend dies.
No.
I actually want to watch that movie again now. It's really good. He's in that movie. So.
There's certainly a resemblance there.
It could work. I don't know how I feel about...
Certainly a resemblance there.
I don't know. This is a tough situation. I think
you gotta honor his performance. We talked about this, and I don't know if it was the first Dork Discourse back or
I'm not opposed to recasting, but I agree. I think
that there's a clear way in the story to where he doesn't actually need to show up in the flesh again.
Yeah, like you were saying, if he pursues this path and gets, goes in a little too deep, I think they can make it work. And he was so vocally passionate about the role, and just, the timing of his passing right before the series. Like, I don't know. Again, I'm not opposed to recasting at all, especially if Dave, for the sake of the story, actually had so much more in store for Balin, and he would want to recast, and, if, Ray Stevenson's family and his estate gave their blessing, like, then it's fine, especially if it's for the sake of the story and Dave is like, no, we need to recast because he actually was going to be like so featured, and how I envisioned this. If it's, if it wouldn't be a detriment to the storyline to end it, with Ray Stevenson. I don't know. We'll see. Have you seen the trailer for Kestis yet? Thoughts? Okay, I haven't because I think I want to film a reaction. I think I want to react to it. So that's the only reason, and I'm just very delayed. So I can't share my thoughts, but I feel like I want to film a reaction to it. So I'm trying to steer clear. You guys are posting on social media and stuff, and I'm like, wait, react to it. So stay tuned. Hopefully I can keep my word and actually freaking do that before it comes out. But very exciting. Very excited for you guys. Where am I? Leave voiced Kingpin in the first Spider-Verse movie? Oh, no way. Interesting. Oh yeah, somebody had asked earlier, one of my members had suggested for a Dork Discourse topic, like which Jedi who we would want to see get their own Tales of the Jedi series, and I feel like Balin Skull would be perfect.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Charlie put it here. Balin Skull, please God, give us a novel of his character, Order 66 and Finding Shin. Yes, I agree. I feel like that could be really awesome for episodes of Tales of the Jedi. I hope that's a series that continues. They did confirm that they're going to extend that, right? I don't know if they loosely confirmed or if Dave just kind of expressed interest, like, yeah. Because I think when they did a panel for it, Did
they say Tales of the Jedi Season 2?
I don't know. I feel like honestly, Dave, when he was talking about it, was just like, I didn't think anybody would really watch these. They were just like little story ideas, but so we'll see. Hopefully he sees the fan demand, and especially for the circumstances with a character like Balin. And I think that's something a lot of people wanted more of, him and Shin and the backstory there and the history, I feel like, the forming of master-apprentice relationships is something we're all just naturally curious about in Star Wars. So I think that's something that we would love. It would be awesome to see in a Tales of the Jedi episode format. So yes, please. I hope so. Charlie, I agree. I hope there's a season 2. We'll see. We shall see. I think
they're confirming that there is.
There is?
I think that's what
saying. Yeah. Oh, let's go. Phew, I hope so.
Yeah. Let's
go. Legends of the Sith poses Sean. That would be freaking cool too.
Tales of the Sith would be fantastic.
That's, yeah, I'm
I like
freaking...
Legend of the Sith better than Tales of the Sith. Yeah.
Legend of the Sith? Yeah, I agree. It has a
Yeah.
different ring to
But
it.
yeah, that would be great. I mean,
Yeah.
even seeing some bit of Dooku, it's like, okay. How
Yeah.
about Palpatine? How about Maul? How about Grievous? Give us all
Give me
three of those,
more.
you know?
Yeah. We also need a Star
More.
Wars.
It's a pretty good Adam impression, I think.
Yes. I saw that audio in a TikTok the other day and I lost it. If there's one thing The Last Jedi gave us, all right? Freaking good memes, all right?
Wow.
Great performance
Some good
from Adam Driver in particular.
Yeah.
Dave, thank you so much. This one is for you.
Oh, thank you, Dave. I've seen the first 3 Scream movies. I actually have not. I don't think I
No,
have.
you never have. Leave
He was
Schreiber.
in this movie as Cotton Weary. Okay, good to know.
Yeah, no, we've actually not watched any of the Scream franchise, which I don't know, maybe we should. Our task last Halloween was getting through the Michael Myers franchise.
Yep.
We didn't really do
Did
that
that.
this year.
We did that.
But maybe next year that can be our task.
A lot of Michael Myers in Fortnite, though.
There is a lot of Michael Myers in Fortnite. He's a goat. He's a legend. I'm Team Mike.
Yeah.
Team Michael.
So the other topic was Rebel Moon.
Yes.
We haven't really talked about it other than release date.
Well, we talked about, I'm curious to see. I'd like to have an episode where we review it,
Yeah.
after we watch it.
Yeah.
But I mainly wanted to talk about it in conjunction of I think it could be a good turning point for just sci-fi streaming in general, but also, I wonder how much Lucasfilm, or Disney rather, is paying attention to the fact that this is being touted as Zack Snyder's Star Wars. But I read an interview today to kind of just brush up for this episode, because I still know very little about it. Up until very recently, I thought it was a limited series. I didn't realize it was 2 films. So I read an article where Zack Snyder was saying, he's a little bit grateful that it didn't work out necessarily, because he kind of was free of the confines and he didn't have rules anymore necessarily, or just like we had already discussed this.
Yeah.
If you're making anything Star Wars, you have to be faithful to what's already set in stone. You can't completely betray everything that's already been established in the lore, the canon, what we know and believe to be Star Wars and whatnot. So, he was saying in an interview that he's, excited, and he was kind of glad. I don't want to put words in his mouth. I should probably find where I read it and link it in the description if you guys want to see it. But he kind of expressed something along those lines, like he can break the rules now, and he's kind of, happy that he can transcend that and do what he wants. So I'm curious,
But was this something that was supposed to be an actual Star Wars project? And
Allegedly.
He broke it out?
Yeah.
And he was like, okay, then I'm just going to turn this into my own thing.
Allegedly was meeting with Lucasfilm, wanted to, pitched this idea, pitched this story, and, things just didn't work out. Allegedly. Feel free to fact check me on that, everyone, but I feel like that's been a lot of the buzz and a lot of promo for this, is that it's Zack Snyder's Star Wars. Or what, this is what he pitched and it didn't work out, so now, he's doing it on his own. But y'all know, as we disclaimed heavily at the beginning of this, I don't want to spread rumors, but that's been a lot of the marketing I've seen for this. So the reason I wanted to talk about it is, yeah, I'm really excited. It looks really, really good. And I feel like, depending on how well this does, like, I wonder what it could mean for, and that's why I wanted to link it with the potential for, like, a Mando movie, or just Star Wars making more films, focusing less on streaming, more on films. It's like the R-rated version of Star Wars, says Lord Fowl. Yeah, I've read that as well. I have read that as well.
I mean, we already got the Star Wars strip club in Andor.
Oh my god, stop.
We did.
That's not R-rated. It's just more mature, more mature. I wouldn't call that R-rated. Or, I don't know. If I were to give Andor a rating, I'd say
strip club?
Yes, Jesus.
Okay.
Not the biggest fan of Zack Snyder, but I totally would have been open to his version of Star Wars. Yeah, well, that's apparently what this is. So I'm excited. But I mainly wanted to just talk about it in relation to, like, if this movie performs really well, you know, we'll see the stats, the analytics, the numbers when it comes out. But I don't know. I wonder if Disney will take a page out of their book and realize, like, maybe that could be the future. Especially if you do have something that is a large story. You know, this is going to be split into 2 films. So if you were to do the math, I guess that could equate to, like, a mini series if you wanted, and if you added some extra flair and kind of extended it a little bit, like 2 films could easily, I think, be stretched to a mini series if done well. But, like, I don't know, if it performs really well, something like Rebel Moon, which does look really big budget, really big, like, really good graphics. That's why I was like, is this getting a theatrical release? Because honestly, it might be worth to go see it in theaters and not just on our TV.
Yeah,
based on how it looks. Yeah.
HJD 97 confirming that Hannibal Lecter is a part of the cast.
The cast is actually loaded. Here, let's just go and look. You actually recognize some of these people.
Yeah.
I think Joanna Malone is in it. She's from the Hunger Games. Joanna Mason. Jenna Malone. I'm an idiot. I always get her name mixed up. Charlie Hunnam. Yes, he's big. He's done a lot. He is a big. Ed Skrein, you do know him. He was Dario. And they actually have both Darios in this. Remember the first Dario Naharis in Game of Thrones before they recast him as this guy? This was the second Dario. I swear this guy was the first Dario. He's Daenerys' like flame. She leaves him when she goes to Westeros. Yeah. She's like, you have to stay here. Oh, okay. So yeah, I think that's hilarious. If I'm not mistaken.
Oh, and the Grand Inquisitor's in this too. Rupert Friend.
Yes, let's go. Yeah. Wait, let me double check that I'm not spreading lies. Yeah, he was in Game of Thrones. Yeah. I think it's so funny that both Darios are in this. Ray Fisher, Jenna Malone, there she is. Yes, you know her. She played Joanna in Hunger Games.
Oh, yep. Yeah.
Yeah, Rupert Friend, Carrie Elwes, let's go.
Lauren Marie Kim. Or Lauren Mary Kim. Isn't she she's the martial artist who did the mocap for Ahsoka, right?
Oh.
Isn't that her?
She might be.
I think that's her. Yes, that is her.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, stunt woman. That's actually sweet. Performed for Star Trek.
That's her. That is totally her.
No, I think you're right. Yeah, no, that's a good omen. This is awesome. But yeah, quite the cast. And I actually think I could be so wrong.
Where's The Rock?
Hang on, I gotta go to IMDb for a second. I could be mistaken, but I feel like I have to just pardon. We're actively scrolling through IMDb because I want to actually fact check myself and make sure I'm not spreading lies. Gordon Tarpley! Yes! Okay, he's listed on the IMDb cast list. And you guys might recognize Gordon. He played the droid, the like medical droid in Shards of the Past. And we like met him. He was arriving on set the second we were leaving. Like we had to go catch a flight and Gordon had just gotten there and he was like suiting up. But we chatted with him briefly and we got to meet him. Yeah. And he's really freaking cool. Yeah. He's awesome. And so when I was lurking on IMDb and I saw his name, I'm like, that's so awesome. So there's our claim to fame. Gordon, shout out. Literally so awesome.
Was he play a bottle of Patron?
Maybe. It says patron. I don't know. I'm sure we'll see him. Patron. He's probably going to be wearing some... He specializes. He's amazing at... He could put up with those hours of the crazy SFX like makeup and, you know, if you've seen him on Instagram, he always is posting like he's got a new look. You know, he's in some sort of like full costume makeup. He's so stellar at that stuff. Seriously, check him out on Instagram. And he has a channel here too. On YouTube where he shares like he's like, you know, he makes his own, I think he has a 3D printer or something. I don't know the first thing about the practical process of making all, you know, he makes a lot of his own like droids and costumes and cosplay and stuff. So he's incredibly awesome, and I'm pretty sure he has like tutorials and progress and videos here on YouTube. And he actually just released a really awesome video speaking to the reality of like the future of AI in filmmaking, and body scans of actors, and he made some really, really awesome points. Like, he has great expertise, so definitely go check him out. If you follow me, I'm sure you already follow him, but if not, but yeah, I saw him on the cast list, and I was like,
wow.
let's
Yeah,
go.
awesome. Yeah.
That's so cool.
Hello, Clarice.
So yeah, definitely definitely a great stacked cast. So I am excited for it, but I wonder, especially since this is, I don't want to say it's being pitted against Star Wars by any means, but they haven't been shying away from the fact that
it's kind of surprising.
It's well, to generate hype. Like I said this in my recent video about the new wave that's coming of video game to live action film and TV adaptations that's about to freaking like swarm Hollywood, I feel like. But it's extremely hard, I feel like, now more than ever. Everything's an IP. Star Trek, Star Wars, Marvel, like that's what performs really well if you already have an existing fan base. And I feel like it's harder.
Oppenheimer.
Okay, well that's
Barbie.
Biopic. Yes,
Technically, Barbie's an IP because Barbie's existed
talking
for
about in like
eons. Barbie is like as old as the
sci-fi-
dinosaurs.
Yeah, I'm talking about in the sci-fi realm.
Oh.
I feel like it's hard to get something off the ground, especially if it doesn't have a book. Witcher has books and video games, right? Was it originally a book? I forget. I feel like it's hard to get something off the ground if it's not originating from a video game, comic, book, some source material where you already have an existing fan base. So, to get something, this is his own story, his own idea, it's not tethered to any pre-existing material. I wouldn't shy away from leaning into like, this is my Star Wars that got rejected.
Yeah.
Not to say it got rejected,
for,
but
like networking, burning bridges purposes. Like, are you burning a bridge with Lucasfilm saying like, well, maybe he is and he doesn't care, because if they rejected his thing, then
I don't know if it was a rejection.
he's like, yeah, I got rejected from Lucasfilm. This wasn't good enough for Star Wars, so here it is. Here's my take.
I don't know.
Like, I don't know. Leaning into that.
I don't know if it was a explicit rejection or if it just didn't work. Because, like, as some people have said, it's rumored to be like an R-rated version of Star Wars. So, maybe it's a great idea and they couldn't adapt it into the current, the current kind of, face of Star Wars. I don't know if it's not inherent animosity if you don't get something to work out. I don't know. I literally don't know. I literally read one article today just to be able to briefly talk about this, but I'm excited about it.
Yeah.
But point being, I don't think it hurts to advertise this as like, oh, Star Wars fans will really like this. Like, this is Zack Snyder, a huge director. This is his rendition of Star Wars. Like, it does look like a Dune / Star Wars love child, which is exciting. That is very, very exciting. Y'all know I'm a big Dune fan. Different from Rebel Moon, but thoughts / aspirations about Skeleton Crew. Cal, freaking, y'all know how I feel about this. I don't believe this show is happening. We were talking about this earlier.
They showed a trailer for it.
But where is it for the rest of us plebes who weren't able to go to Celebration?
Probably still 6 months out.
Like, why the F can't show me this trailer? Show me. Because I don't believe this show is happening. And I've said this, you guys know, I've gone on rants about this. I've gone on so many tangents about this. This doesn't mean I'm not trying to express doubt or like disbelief in their capability of getting this show, or the fact that my brain has not clicked. I don't compute. I forget about the show, and then somebody says Skeleton Crew, and I'm like, is this even happening? Because we have nothing tangible to show for it.
Is that the next show?
I think Acolyte is coming first.
Acolyte is coming first?
Yes.
Next year first?
I think next year. I don't know what the slated release date is, but Acolyte, I think, is coming in the earlier quarter of 2024. Point is, you guys know, I can't. My brain we have nothing. We have nothing tangible to show for Skeleton Crew, and I know that this is notorious for, up until Ahsoka, which I feel like they had a complete diversion, or somebody new just came in and totally revamped their style of marketing. Granted, I think they had to step things up because Ahsoka came out the strikes were enacted right before the series came out, so I think they had to up the marketing a little bit because the actors, nobody could be actively discussing it and promoting it. So I think that was a natural pivot to, for once, you guys know this. I've said this before. This is no shade to the Star Wars marketing team because I don't know what happens behind the closed doors. I don't know how your guys' job works. If anything, I think they actively employ reverse psychology with us by not showing us freaking anything so that we just want to see something. Like, they're like, let's not give them a trailer until like 4 days before the show comes out. Like, that's what it freaking feels like with modern Star Wars marketing. And so why? You know, for example, look at freaking House of the Dragon. We already got a first look. The show's not coming out till next summer, which could also potentially mean, I keep forgetting, like, when I hear summer, I think, like, oh, June. But no, that could mean, like, end of September, you know? Like, September's still summer. And that's kind of when the show came out, actually, last year. So I wouldn't be shocked if it was, like, a latter half of the year type summer release. Still, not coming out till potentially next September, and we already have a first look. I don't, why? I'm sorry. Skeleton Crew is really happening. But Jude Law, though, that's true. We have Jude Law, and he came out with, like, all the kids at a celebration recently, but, like, I just don't, I hate, why do they have to, like, yeah, Celebration was freaking in April, like, release it to the rest of us, the trailers. Like, I don't believe this show is happening. I just don't. I'm sorry. I have to go stir once more what is in the crock pot. You guys know how I feel about this. I literally forget that the show exists, that it's happening. I feel like it's been in development for a long time now, and we have nothing to see for it. Like, I will critique this openly. I'm sorry. I'm sorry if this pisses people off. I will critique this openly because this is just my experience, but it causes frustration. I'm like, how can I be excited about this if I have nothing to show, nothing to expect? I constantly forget the show is in development. It shouldn't be like that, in my opinion. Like, I want a trailer, something to cling to get freaking excited about. Yep. But right now, the show is supposed to come out next year. I have no effing clue what the plot is, other than Jude Law and the ensemble of, you know, child actors that he's going to be working with. No freaking idea, other than hearsay. Or, you know, if somebody had to leak the trailer from a celebration. Like,
your heart rate, Ricky Bobby.
I have literally, like, nothing. If you asked, and I consider myself a passionate, sweaty Star Wars fan, okay? I will, like, actively admit that. We have a whole channel dedicated to this. Yeah. And if somebody off the street were to ask me, like, what is Star Wars Skeleton Crew about? You're a dedicated fan. Like, what is the show? I couldn't effing tell you, and it shouldn't be that way. All right, I'm sorry. I hope this doesn't anger people. I always try to cover our backs in case anyone from Lucasfilm actually magically watches. I love you all. Freaking Disney, freaking Lucasfilm. I love Star Wars, but your marketing, please give me something. This isn't even a criticism. This is me begging you. I'm begging you. Like, give me something. They'll probably release a trailer within the next few weeks. I hope so. Yeah. Let's hope that this manifests.
Acolyte is allegedly 2024 confirmed. So
it better be.
I don't really. Yeah, Skeleton Crew trailer, sure, show whenever. But I am certainly more intrigued by the Acolyte than Skeleton Crew. And given the time period, given the premise that we know that it's supposed to explore the dark side, we know the Rule 2 is a thing. Therefore, who is one of the two during this time period? That would be Mr. Darth Plagueis. So it seems to me that there's only one real way that this show can go if it's going to explore the dark side during that time period, which would be the happenings and whereabouts of Darth Plagueis. So could I be setting myself and others up for failure by thinking that that's where it's going to go? Perhaps. Or they could go that way and it would be incredible. But yeah, in terms of Skeleton Crew versus Acolyte, definitely very much so more intrigued about the Acolyte.
Because we also know more about it.
Not really. We don't know much about it. We know it's High Republic era. We know it's like 100 years before the Phantom Menace. We know that Darth Plagueis is alive and well during that time period. So it's like, and we know it's about lightsabers and the Force and Jedi and particularly dark side wielders. So, yeah, and Darth Tenebris. Yeah, exactly. And yeah, they showed an Acolyte trailer at Celebration 2, to your point, Josh, but we still don't have that. Granted, yeah, they leaked online, and some of us might have seen them. But yeah, they haven't
Can either
officially released
confirm
anything.
or deny. But I feel like when Acolyte was pitched, maybe I just missed it. Maybe my own internal bias. I clung more to what the description of Acolyte was, and maybe I just completely tuned out when they announced Skeleton Crew. And other than the fact that it's Jude Law flying around in space with a bunch of kids, I have no idea. Versus I'm more excited about Acolyte, so maybe I know how to talk about it more. I know more what to expect, what's in store. I don't know. I've calmed down. We're nearing the end of our episode here tonight, folks. Do you wanna conduct a poll to finish things off like we always do? Do you have a poll in mind?
Yeah, I have like 5.
All right, we'll pick one.
I'll pick 3.
One. No. Just one. It takes away from the fun of it if you do too many.
First poll. How many polls should we do?
Oh my god. Just one.
What was it?
Poll. Poll. Poll.
Typing the poll in silence.
This is a good one. Perfect. I like this.
Nope, we're just gonna leave it as that. Okay.
Very appropriate for tonight's episode.
First poll.
The only poll. This is our only poll. This is our
Vote
one
away,
poll.
ladies and gentlemen. Vote away.
Poll positions. Sorry for all my Godzilla spam, but I'm spreading the word. No, Toronto, you make a really good point. And I forget if it was you or somebody else who commented earlier when we were talking about budget allocations and quality, but I forget if you or somebody mentioned that Godzilla had the new one coming out. I'm not very in tune with the Godzilla franchise, so I have no clue, so correct me if I'm wrong, but the new one coming out allegedly only had a budget of like 15 million, and it's getting like rave reviews. Yeah. Like,
well, I think the director even came out and said like, oh, I wish it was that high, implying that it was less than 15.
Wow. Oh my god. So correct us if we're wrong, but if that's the case, this is why, you know, a lot of people complain, how can there be so many how can there be such disparities between, you know, sci-fi franchises and stuff when you have budget of 15 million and then budget of like 100 plus, and this 15 million budget seemingly looks really good, and as Sharonda's pointing out, is quite literally the best film of the year, and you don't even have to be a fan of the franchise to enjoy. Yeah, I don't think I've actually ever seen a single Godzilla anything. It was cheaper, actually. Okay, so yes, Sharonda confirms it wasn't even.
Well, it's a question mark in there,
Oh.
so it's not true.
Oh, maybe. I want both Mando Season 4 and a movie along with Dave's wrap-up movie. Good answer. Good answer, Skywalker's Academy. All of the above.
Yeah, so yeah. Yes, that is true. The director denied the 15 million budget claim. It was like, I wish it was that much.
Wow.
So, yes. Yes, the budget was allegedly less than 15 million. Does that mean it was 14,999,999.99 Maybe.
On paper.
But based on the director's claim, it seems like it's a significant amount less than that.
Yeah.
So okay. So we got 30. We are about 1/3 yes, 2/3 no.
More.
There you go. What do we got? 9 votes. There's 20 people watching. So yeah. Stanley's, can you read out the question and the order of the
Oh,
answer?
yes, I'm sorry. For some reason, it keeps
question
switching.
is, You want to read?
Yeah, should Mando season 4 be a movie? First answer is yes. Second answer is no. No currently has the most votes with 67%, which I'm a little bit surprised by. I don't even know how I would vote for this. I feel like I'd be inclined to say yes. I think my biggest takeaway from all of this, and what we'll see when Rebel Moon comes out, is, you know, maybe movies are the way to go when it comes to quality.
Or if you're going to do a series, release it all at once. Do it all.
Yeah, because think about not even Rebel Moon, you know, they're having part 1 and part 2. Granted, I don't know how long the gap is going to be between them, but I don't think it's going to be egregious or anything. Yeah. Yeah, I think Netflix is the best model. Granted, it makes it harder to avoid spoilers and for everyone to kind of be on the same page.
But it's better for the viewer experience.
It is.
Getting the entire story all at once. Like the idea of, oh, it comes out, I'm going to set aside an entire day and just sit there and binge it. And it's Stranger Things Day.
Yeah.
No,
and people still actively talk about it online. It's, you know, granted at different paces. I think that is the benefit of having weekly releases. Everyone can then go on social media safely and chat about it, share their thoughts amongst each other. You know, I was gonna say there is the risk of spoilers and whatnot if you have the Netflix model, but freaking I think Star Wars fans have completely just abolished any sort of safety window duration following the episodes of respect period for each other before sharing spoilers, because during Ahsoka I feel like it used to be like give it 24 hours or at least give it the night and then go on the next day and share spoilers if you want to talk about it. But with Ahsoka, I was going on Twitter and within 5 minutes, people were sharing just blatant pictures of Hayden Christensen, like in the World Between Worlds after that episode. So, you know, it was very instantaneous. So I feel like all decorum in regards to withholding spoilers for a 24-hour window at least has gone out the window, gone out the door. The Acolyte will slip into summer of 2024, with my speculation being it takes Andor's planned August window. Oh, and Skeleton Crew will release later in November. Oh my gosh, that's a good point. Andor, yeah, we didn't even talk about that being pushed to 2025, but that's kind of expected. And with all the other content coming, like, it's okay. If Andor was the only thing slated to come out next year and then got postponed, then I might be a little bit more agitated by that, but I don't even think I felt anything when I saw that it got moved, because I feel like I just have the expectation that a lot of things are getting pushed because of the strikes and whatnot, so it's all right. We'll get it. It'll happen.
Well, we got pretty much an even split here, yes and no, which is very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of torn as well. You know, I think if they have a good enough story and it's going to be a conclusion type event to the story, then yeah, make it a movie. But if it's just going to be like, oh, they're turning the show into Mando movies and there's going to be a movie for season 4 and then season 5 would be a movie and it's just going to keep going like that, I don't know. I think if you started it as a series, maybe you keep it as a series, but if there's some climactic, like the climax of this show and these characters impacts at the level of the saga films do in terms of story, then yeah, make it a movie.
Yeah.
If that just means more budget, more time dedicated to the story, fleshing it out, and
granted, you know, some of the appeal and some of the allure of Mando that we might complain about, but I know other people love, is that, you know, there are just some fun, I don't want to call them throwaway episodes, but there are just some fun side episodes, side quests that, you know, would totally get the axe if you were to, you know, condense it all into a film. And a lot of people do enjoy that aspect of Mando, that, you know, we prefer continuity, but I know there are a lot of people who enjoy the element of Mandalorian that has episodes that don't necessarily, they're not high stakes, they don't play necessarily into the overall plot, but, you know, they're character building or world building and they're fun side quests. So and I feel like that is a big part of the show itself. Some of the more fun stuff that happens on the side. So I don't know. It would be interesting. Dave, thank you.
Tech is not dead.
Let's do this. Season 3, I know. We'll see. We will see. I don't know. I hope. I don't know. We'll see.
I hope he's dead.
Star Wars has been reviving a lot of people lately, so who knows? He could be. He's in the limbo period.
Would I be shocked if he's alive? No.
Yeah, no, I would not be.
No, I think it takes away from the emotional weight if he survives. Yes, but no, I actually do think that he's alive. I think that.
Yeah.
I actually do think that he's alive.
We'll see.
But
HJD97, you make a really good point. Yep. Mando is already movie quality in a series format. I don't know why they would mess with the formula that already made it so popular to begin with. That's actually very, very true. That is a good point. That is definitely like the vibe of Mando. So maybe it wasn't the project necessarily to get a film version. I think at the end of the day, we can all agree Kenobi is something we all would have loved to see in film format. But, we'll see. Even if it's, maybe there is an issue with taking already pre-established series and culminating them into a film finale. But I think, with something like Rebel Moon's taking something that could be a limited series and expanding it into films, 2-part film series, I think that could be an interesting path for the future of Star Wars. Something's pitched as a limited series, but then they're like, let's turn this into a movie. If it's got the je ne sais quoi, as Alex said in the last stream, if it has the je ne sais quoi to be a movie,
je ne sais quoi.
Pardon my god-awful accent. But if it has the juice, if it has enough stuff to be like, yo, this could be an amazing film, let's actually make it a movie. Let's split it up into like a 2-part film series or something like that. And do something like what they're doing. Oh no, Nicholas made it right at the tail end. Sorry, we're doing our finishing poll, which is actually dead at 50-50.
50-50. Someone's gotta, no, don't answer.
Oh, okay.
Someone's gotta, we got 12 votes, 17 people watching.
For the luck of the short.
Someone vote and then make the final decision.
We'll end the poll.
There we go. Someone's trolling. Someone's trolling. Who's going back and forth? Stop trolling. Make up your mind. All right. It's been there for 10 seconds.
Okay. All right. So more people were in favor of no, which is no. You all made valid points. So no, this was a fun topic this evening. Thank you all for joining. It will definitely. Are you serious?
Yep. Closing poll.
No.
Closing poll.
You're ruining the fun of the polls.
No, I'm not. We talked about 2 things.
Oh my god.
So we're gonna have 2 polls. If anybody from the Rebel Moon camp is watching, then this is good insight for them.
Okay. I highly doubt it.
So let's see.
Okay. The snow cushioned text fall. Good point, Stanley. It could have. It's plausible. It's plausible. Yeah. Hey, I'll do it.
So here's the new poll.
Oh, yes. Are you going to watch Rebel Moon is the prompt. First answer is yes, with currently 100%, 6 votes. Second answer is no, currently with. So it looks like, everyone. I feel like this is an easier one. It's definitely piqued my interest. I think the graphics look incredible. It has the cast to back it up. Yeah. Lots of beloved faces. And Zack Snyder, who I feel like has a little bit of a cult fan following in the best sense of the word. He has very devoted fan base, I feel like. So my hope is that Rebel Moon does really, really well, because I feel like it could pave the way for new appeal for big budget sci-fi, epic, awesome, fantastical films and kind of open a path for new IP. Like, I do think that's something that this could be a whole other episode topic, who knows, but I think that is something that a lot of people have been thirsting for in modern cinema or film and TV. Everything is kind of just a remake. Everything is a rework or a modern day adaptation of an older movie and, you know, or a live action adaptation of an animated thing. And it's kind of, I think a lot of people are really just asking and begging for new stories. And so it's kind of like, but it's hard nowadays. It's the reason that's happening is because it's, I feel like, harder than ever, you know, behind the scenes in Hollywood to pitch a project and get it green lit. Like it's an extremely difficult, time consuming process. Look at, I think it really came to light when like the Queen's Gambit was trembling. The Queen's Gambit was trending on Netflix, and that show was like #1 and sat at the top for like a long time. It literally dominated Netflix. Won a lot of awards, if I'm not mistaken. I think Anya Taylor-Joy won the Emmy for that. I could be wrong. I could be so wrong, but point is, it performed so well. Google searches and how to play chess like peaked. We're at an all-time high, and that show is just unanimously very well received.
Oh, Queen's Gambit.
Yes. And it came out that show, they had been trying to get that to happen for 10 years. Like, it is actually extremely, extremely difficult, you know, for some directors for anybody to get, even for big directors. I feel like even people like Steven Spielberg have quoted, I could be wrong, but I feel like even they've said, like, yeah, I have things in my back pocket that I've tried to pitch that don't work. So it's extremely hard to get things greenlit. So if Rebel Moon, coming off of like a new sci-fi epic fantasy type, you know, if that's the story and it has no source material, no comics, nothing to like back it up and ensure like, oh yeah, this is a video game, there was already going to be a huge audience for it. If something like this performs really well, which I hope it does, I feel like it can hopefully open doors for like a lot more exciting sci-fi fantasy projects. So we'll see. Everyone's seemingly voting yes that they're going to be watching, so Tom and I might go see it this weekend, and we might talk about it next week's episode, fresh after our initial viewing. I think I might go. Now that I didn't realize it was actually going to be released in theaters for a limited run, so look into it, folks. I think we'll be definitely going to see it. But if not, it will be available on Netflix, so stay tuned. But I think we'll...
Next.
No. Our dinner's burning in the crock pot, probably, so this is why I'm trying to wrap it up. But thank you guys so very much for watching this episode of Dork Discourse. This was a fun one. I like this. I think it's fun to try to take two different topics and see how they connect and whatnot. So as always, comment. We might do next week's episode talking about Percy Jackson. We're gonna go watch that tonight. Yeah, first episode's probably done by now.
It's out.
Came out. So we're gonna go probably watch that tonight. Maybe we'll talk about that next week. Maybe we'll talk about Rebel Moon. Maybe we'll talk about both. Do little reviews episode. That can actually be really fun. Reviewing both the film and the first two episodes here of Percy Jackson. So stay tuned. But as always, we are more than open to you guys for future episodes as we're trying to keep this ongoing. So can't do this without your guys, without whatever you guys want to see us talk about. So definitely, if the spirit moves you, feel free, comment. HJD97. You know us well, my friend. Who wins? 1,000 Lions or the Death Star? Hey, that can be... Maybe that'll be a whole episode.
All-time poll suggestion right there.
Everybody who is hanging out, Charlie, Sean, Nicholas, sorry you tuned in at the very end here, but good to see you for a little bit. HJD, who else? Sharonda, Skywalker's Academy. We've had a lot of people hanging out.
Yeah.
Sean, definitely been a good time. Nicholas Brown, Stanley's. Been a good episode. Thank you guys so much for joining. Hope you guys are doing fabulous as always. Sorry, I'm scrolling to get my screen ready. As always, hope you guys have a great rest of your day, night, morning, evening, 3 a.m., whatever time it may be for you. Hope you guys have an amazing rest of your week. I'll catch you guys over, hopefully, on the evil. Gosh, I never realized how much of a tongue twister that is. Evil Ewok podcast. Hopefully soon. But until then, thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you guys again very, very soon.
Have a good night, everybody.
Bye.
See you all next week.